Welcome back to Just Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Today we have a special guest who's not been on the show yet, Ben Bilotti. Ben, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Clay. I'm really happy to be here to talk about fantasy. I think my team's doing pretty well, so hopefully I can give some advice to everyone else.
So those who don't know, Ben works for Just Baseball. He's more of a behind the scenes guy, but I wanted to give him a chance to come out and introduce himself. He does all the editing for our video. So anytime that you see any mistakes, you know now who to point it towards, right, Ben?
Yeah, if there's something not cut out of a video on YouTube, that's all my bad. So you can put all the hate my way, I guess.
Ben, tell us a little bit about your team. Who's on your fantasy team? Some of the big names. If there's any key
Yeah.
pickups you've had this year that you're proud of, go ahead and tell us.
Yeah, definitely. So in my keepers league, I had Jeremy Pena on last year, so I've been riding that train. He's been up and down this year for fantasy, but my proudest moment right now was just drafting Masataka Yoshida early. Obviously, he got off to a super slow start, but the past week, 2 weeks has been just easily like the most points out of any of my players on my team, especially the week where he had 3 home runs in 1 week. And then we'll get to another one of my pickups shortly when we talk.
Great. Yeah, so Ben's a Red Sox fan. Ben, you live in Boston, is that right?
So I live in Providence right now, Providence, Rhode Island. I will be moving to Boston, though, shortly. So I'll be able to have a lot more access to Red Sox games and everything then.
All right. I'll be in Boston in July, so I'll have to hit you up. But just a few news and notes to roll through before we get into this episode, which we're going to be talking about streamers for the first part of the week and the waiver wire, players that we think you should pick up starting your week fresh. Maybe you're coming off a loss, need to shake up your roster some. We have a few names for you. So the main news that I want to talk about is Gavin Stone, a rookie who's getting called up by the Dodgers to start Wednesday's game. Gavin Stone's Just Baseball's number 43 prospect, was incredible last year across 3 levels. He had an ERA under 2 with the Ks per 9 around 12 at each stop. Just a fantastic start. So I'm shooting up the prospect rankings. You know, it's another example. Man, here are the Dodgers with more talent coming. What's new? We've seen it with James Outman this year as well. He finished in AAA last year. Stone did. He went back to Triple to start this year. Not the best start so far. Just in over 24 innings, a 4.74 ERA, 4.91, 27 strikeouts. I'm not reading too much into that small sample size. In terms of fantasy impact, I don't know how long he's going to be up. I don't know if he's going to be playing or I'm sorry, starting every week or anything. I'm in wait and see right now. Are you the type that wants to jump on a Gavin Stone?
So if I have a slot where I go in and I have streamers, weekly that I'm, going in and out with, I'll take a chance on him. I always like taking a chance on the young prospect. I think there's always a little bit of magic that can happen on an MLB debut. But then again, you do have to be very mindful of the guys that do implode. Like Mason Miller, I think was a good pickup for some people, but you might have not been as happy with that result as you would have liked. So I'm always careful for the prospects. If it's someone super high, you have to go for them and just hope that they pan out and stay on the team for the whole season. But I think someone like Gavin Stone, with a pretty high ranking prospect, take a chance. But if you are dropping someone worth keeping for the long haul, definitely don't do that. That's what I would say.
And the way I like to do my rosters, I like to have an empty spot, not an empty spot, but a floating spot, kind of like what you talked about. A spot that I'm bringing in a reliever for one day, or I'm bringing in a streamer or whatnot. So Gavin Stone, somebody I'm going to look into and see. I don't think I will this week, mostly because I have far too many starters on my roster to begin with. There's a guy that we're going to talk about that I recently picked up. I just picked up Taj Bradley as well. So I don't really have the room for I may have to pick up a bat just to have a full lineup this week. So let's go ahead and jump into the waivers. My first one is Nick Senzel. And Ben, what you have to know is I'm a Reds fan. I never talk about Reds players because I'm not really big on a lot of the Reds players in terms of fantasy. Nick Senzel's a guy I wrote off a while ago. Like I'm talking 2 years ago. I just never really saw it. Injuries, poor performance, nothing looked right with Nick Senzel. He comes in this year injured, of course, which has always been the case with his career. Starts the year on the IL. Rehab start looked pretty good in Louisville, but it's AAA baseball.
Right.
Comes back to the Reds and has hit really, really well. The stats that we were about to read, we were recording on Sunday. These are from Sunday morning. 260, 235, 360. He did hit a home run today on Sunday, 2 hits. The next couple of games are against the Padres, whose starting pitching has been, okay. And the White Sox. The White Sox might be the biggest dumpster fire right now. In terms of just expectations, I would say the A's are worse than them. But one thing to note about Nick Senzel as well is, he has center field eligibility. He has had 7 games at third, and I believe he will get that 10-game mark to get extra eligibility. I believe he'll get that in the next week or two. He's been playing a lot of third base in 4 games at second. What do you like about Nick Senzel?
Yeah, I love the versatility. I was a guy that followed Jack McMullen's advice, take Brendan Donovan. I've fallen in love with Brendan Donovan, but I could see Nick Senzel is open in a ton of leagues just because, he does have the injury concerns. He hasn't always stayed on the field, so a lot of people are weary to pick him up. He's someone that I can see myself, this week or next week dropping Donovan for and picking him up. Because he could be that perfect, keep him on the bench, but if he's hot, keep him, put him at third, put him at second. The versatility in fantasy is starting to become something that's huge, especially with so many more off days built into everyone's, management. The way managers manage the game with off days. The versatility in fantasy is just as big as it is in real life in MLB. So I love that about Senzel. I also love the walks because he might strike out a lot, but he's been walking a lot.
12% walk rate so far this year, which is high for him. 17.5%, which is about what he's been at. The question with him has always been, how much can he impact the baseball? Well, he has a home run today as we record on Sunday. That's 2 on the year. Again, small sample size. We want to talk about some deep leaguers today. He's owned in less than 1% of leagues. I expect that to start to jump up, especially for the people that just sort by past 7 days stats. He's played really well. Now, he just played against the Athletics, so that's going to help some, but had a walk-off home run the other night. I've never seen him as comfortable as he is right now. He looked happy. He was a guy who has not always had a smile on his face with the rough start to his career. So I like Nick Senzel in a deep league. I love him, especially like you said, Donovan's not getting it done for you. Maybe Jose Miranda, I know he's owned in about 57% of leagues. I wouldn't drop Miranda yet, but if you did, and you just need someone who can fill a couple of positions, Nick Senzel can be that guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next is a guy who's a little hit or miss, but I like him, is Shea Langoliers. If you're looking for a catcher in a deeper league, I like Shea Langoliers simply because of the power. 6 home runs this year. 13 runs, 16 RBIs. His slash line is 233, 298, 488. Here's why I like him. Every single day at bats, he's going to be in the lineup, something that's needed in fantasy. And so often we see catchers playing, getting the 3rd or 4th day off every single time. He's in that lineup, and he's batting towards the middle of the lineup, which is key in fantasy as well. Now, the run production hasn't been amazing with the A's. Their offense is not as bad as you would imagine. It's the pitching that's really held them back. So Shea Langoliers only owned in about 9 or 10% of leagues right now. If you're looking for a catcher, if you've had an injury, if MJ Melendez is not cutting it for you at this point because he's off to such a cold start, hold Melendez, by the way. Hold him. Make him your backup outfielder. But go out and get Shea Langoliers. The at-bats, I've watched almost every A's game this year. And his at-bats are getting better and better. He's starting to get more comfortable, and he's starting to also not only swing for the fences, but take the away pitch to the opposite field. I like what I've seen.
Yeah, Shea Lang, he's actually, I've picked him up and I've had him for a while now for exactly what you said. MJ Melendez not cutting it, but not someone I can just completely fall off the earth with, because I do believe in Melendez, and we do here at Just Baseball believe in Melendez as a first and foremost as a hitter. But, Langeliers is someone I look at to fill that role of Seth Brown for the A's. Seth Brown was someone last year that stepped up and had a lot of power, and he might have not hit for average or got a lot of hits, but those doubles and home runs, especially playing in the Coliseum, a lot of doubles, that was worth keeping on fantasy for a lot of people's rosters for the entire season. And now with Brown on the shelf, Shea Langeliers is looking to fill that role as a catcher or a DH. And like you said, consistent ABs every day. So I expect to see the power continue for him. And I really do think he's a really solid pickup.
Yeah, and that's how they're keeping him fresh, is they're playing him at DH and letting Carlos Perez play catcher some. Sunday's lineup had Perez DHing. So they've been flip-flopping, trying to keep them fresh. The next guy is Ben's boy here, Jaren Duran. Only owned in about 9% of leagues. Now, Duran came up last year, high expectations, didn't quite meet them, as happens all the time with rookies. No big deal. Starts in triple this year, I believe. Gets called up early. 409, 429, 659. 1 home run, 10 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 44 at-bats. That slash line sounds like the 3-game sample size type players. Right. 44 at-bats is still a small sample, but it's enough to say, like, wait up, I do actually need to keep an eye on this guy. It's not just throw the stats out the window. Ks are down 4% from last year. Average exit velocity, 93.7 miles per hour with a 58.8 hard hit percentage. No, this is not going to be the norm for him. No, he's not going to become one of the best hitters in the MLB. But at this point in the year, the James Outmans have been picked up. The kind of, up-and-coming guys who were there from the beginning are already getting scooped up. This is the type of player you need to take a flyer on now before someone else does. And if he gets cold, you drop him. This is why you kind of have an extra flex space in your roster, is to pick up a Jaren Duran who's only owned in 9% of leagues. Go out there and fill your outfield with a lot of speed and what looks to be, so far, a good bat to ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And much like we were talking about with Nick Senzel and how you're a Reds fan, you watch him and you see he's never been at this comfort level. That's how I feel with Jaren Duran. Jaren Duran is one of the guys that I picked up shortly after he was called up because I saw him in the box. He actually looked comfortable for the first time I've seen. I think this is the 3rd time he's been called up in his career. It's the most comfortable I've ever seen. He made his revamped his swing a little bit. He looks more comfortable. His walk percentage is up, like you said. Strikeout percentage is down. And the most important thing is just how he's impacting the ball, like that exit wheel you said. Every single ball is being ripped. Ground rule double today. I think he leads the American League in doubles, and he hasn't even been playing the whole season. So 9 doubles, he leads the American League since he got called up. And this is just a guy that's confident. He looks like he's having a ton of fun. And the Red Sox, they're underdogs this year, not the best team in the league, but the scenery inside the clubhouse has changed. The mentality has changed, and it's the perfect clubhouse atmosphere for someone like Duran to thrive. And for someone who last year struggled with what he said, he had mental health issues last year, being called up, didn't fit in. And now he says best clubhouse environment he's ever been in. So it's definitely someone worth taking a flyer on. I'm starting him every day in my league right now within that flex spot. And if he gets cold, no worries. I'll drop him for someone else maybe. But for right now, it's a really solid option, and it's someone that I would put confidence in. Still be wary because he's been up and down a lot. Yeah. But right now, he looks like a completely different player.
Yeah, and good for him. We've talked about a lot of outfielders in the past couple of weeks who are owned in that less than 15% range. And it's just about filtering them in and out at this point. Excuse me. You've got to just pick one up while they're hot and see which one will eventually stick. Because one of them, who we've talked about, maybe Jack Zawinski or somebody's going to stick and actually stay on your roster, and it's about finding that person. So if you pick up, somebody else and it's just not working, drop them. Try Jaren Duran for a while and see how that goes. Ben, have you played So Rare yet?
I have. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So Rare is a fantasy baseball game that makes you the owner. I'm sure that most people out there have started playing it by now. It's free to play. You build your own team with officially licensed digital cards, and then you're the GM. So you get to draw players, add players. You can actually purchase cards if you wish to as well. You get to keep cards. Competitions happening each week, and you get to win real prizes. So it's actually a really cool, like, free to play game in which you can actually win something. And if you keep winning, you keep advancing. Ben, who's been on your So Rare team?
So I got really lucky with the first draw and with pitching, and I got Dylan Cease and Logan Webb. So those have been my two starters pretty much. If they're slated to go in the 3 or 4 game set, whatever the week is for, if they're pitching, they're in my roster all the time. But I've been following, you and Arm a lot, especially with Arm's picks. I'm trying to get the younger guys in there that are a little more affordable if you're buying players.
Yeah.
So Corbin Carroll at first was a cheaper option. He's gone up in price a little bit now, but I keep rolling Corbin out there, and I just keep riding with Cease and Webb. I mean, I'm not buying as many guys as other people. I'm trying to do it all myself, so it's a little harder, but it's a lot of fun.
I want to see how much like Brent Rooker is at this point. He just keeps hitting home runs, and that's a guy whose card was probably dirt cheap to begin the year, and now he's playing so well. So. But back to some waiver wire pickups. The next guy is Carlos Estevez of the Angels, a relief pitcher. I did not know much about Estevez until recently. I still don't know that much. I've watched a couple of games that he's pitched. 5 saves on the year. He is walking a lot. It's 4.26 walks per 9, which that's a reliever build. Like that happens with some guys in the bullpen. Only owned in 14% of leagues. 1.42 ERA, 2.57 FIP. Carlos Estevez, I mean, at this point, if you need saves, you need to be doing the same thing that we just discussed with the outfielders. You need to be picking up players. And we told people weeks ago, AJ Puck, pick him up. He has been fantastic. You can't get him anymore. Like, you're not going to find AJ Puck in your league. He is on a roster. Now it's time to find the next wave, the next person who can steal some saves for you that nobody was thinking about. Could this be Carlos Estevez? I mean, is he a guy that you may look into?
Yeah, I mean, I'll look at it this way. He's already taken in my dynasty league, and he's available in my other league. I missed the Puck wave. I don't want to miss the Estevez wave, especially because a lot of leagues are opting to go not only saves but holds. So if you're in a league with holds, he's going to be getting both of those. So whether it's holds or saves, some people combine them into one category. So that he's the perfect pitcher for that, whether he's closing or a setup role. And he's looked really good so far.
And the Angels are a good enough team that they'll actually get some wins. Mm-hmm. You're not picking up a closer on a team that's never going to get wins. So right. I actually like this move a lot. 31% whiff rate on the fastball, 39% on the slider. I like the small sample that I've seen. If you're looking for another closer, I may have mentioned this in an article or maybe on the show. Liam Hendriks is out there on a lot of leagues. He just pitched in a rehab. He's going to be back soon, which is an absolutely remarkable story, and I love to see it. I'm his biggest fan. He's on my IL. If you have that floating spot, before you add someone, add Liam Hendriks, boom, bump him to your IL, wait a couple weeks, a month, whatever it may be, whenever he's comfortable to come back, and you're getting one of the best closers on a team that's not very good. But keep in mind, it's probably time for the White Sox to start selling. JustBaseball.com, Elijah Evans wrote a fantastic, super long, in a good way, article about the White Sox and what their situation is and if they're going to buy, sell, trade. Definitely suggest checking that out. He breaks down who's available and who may be moving. He talked about Hendriks. Man, if you're a team that needs a closer at the deadline, that's a really good option. The last guy that we're going to talk about before we get into streamers is Logan Allen. Pitched on Sunday. I know Ben and I both watched the entirety of that game because I have Logan Allen, and he was going up against Ben's Red Sox. Mm-hmm. Now, his first outing, he's only had 2 starts for the Guardians, owned in 17% of leagues. First outing went 6 innings with 8 Ks. Second outing on Sunday, 5 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts. So I'm watching this game, and he was cruising through 4, looking really good. Gives up a single, and then he gives up this bloop double that went right over the third baseman's head, weird bounce, and just happened to go into the stands at Fenway where it kind of juts out there. From there, I think it was like a 37-pitch inning, maybe even more than that, led to 2 runs. He gets pulled due to pitch count. But overall, I loved what I saw in 8 strikeouts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he has that type of stuff too. This isn't a terrible lineup that he was just carving up or anything like that. I love what I saw from Logan Allen. And if people picked him up last week to stream, then dropped him, or picked him up today to stream, and in a points league, he got like 8 points or something. If they drop him after that, I am scooping him immediately. This is one of my must adds. We know the type of pitchers that Cleveland develops, and this is just the next one in the line.
Yeah, definitely. He was one of the guys that I picked up as a rookie the day he got called up or the day before he got called up, and I've kept him ever since. Yep. I loved what I saw the first start. I actually saw him his previous start when he pitched in Worcester. I went to that game.
Oh, okay, cool.
Sox and saw him pitch there, and he looked great. He's one of the sweeper guys, so the sweepers contribute to a lot of his Ks. But he just looks like he belongs. Like, he doesn't look nervous out there. Yeah. He didn't look rattled when he was getting Babbished to death today. Yeah. So I think he's a really good guy, especially if you do have the empty spot. If you don't even, drop someone with the empty spot, pick him up and keep him because he looks comfortable. He's shoving. Today was just a little bit unlucky, but look at the start before. It was great the start before. He's still striking guys out, which will get you points even if it's not a lot. So hold on to him. I think he's just going to keep doing what he's doing because Cleveland just knows what they're doing when it comes to young pitchers.
So there's 2 runs today. Single, weird kind of bloop, unlucky double that ended up in the stands for a ground rule double. So now you have runner on third and Jaren Duran, who we just talked about, on second base. Tons of speed. The way they scored was Alex Verdugo had a check swing looking half swing, not a confident swing at all because he was fooled by Logan Allen's pitch. And it just blooped into center field. It was very lucky. Duran's speed allowed him to score. That's how the 2 runs scored. Nothing stuck out as, I'm a little bit concerned about Logan Allen. Everything today that I saw said, this guy's legit. I'm glad that I have him, and there's no chance that I'm dropping him anytime soon. Ben, are you ready to jump into some streamers?
Let's do it.
Streaming options get more and more difficult, it seems like. And it also is one of those deals where we talk about the same players a lot because they're streaming like gods. So Tyler Wells is the streaming god because he's not necessarily like great enough to be on everyone's, like, if you're in a 10-person league, he may not be on a roster, but he's going to have 35 transactions throughout the year of people picking him up and dropping him for streamers. Well, I love the matchup he has. And if you're in a team or in a league that's, competitive and you need to start, I would pick him up today. I like to pick up my streamers 2 or 3 days before, even if I do have to sacrifice the roster spot before someone else can get them. So he pitches May 2nd at Kansas City, a good pitcher's park. So far this year, 2.79 ERA, 3.88 FIP. He's only walked 3 batters all year long, and he's pitching to soft contact. Kansas City is a bad team. Ben knows that firsthand from watching MJ Melendez. They have a 69 WRC plus, which is tied with the Rockies for last in the league. I love this streamer pick. It's probably the one I'm most confident in that I've had all year.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a 12-person league, I think, like Clay said, this is someone that might be hard to get your hands on. So if they're still out there, go get them right now because they are Tyler Wells is one of the most consistent, 5th guys in a rotation. Yeah. And you need to have him on your team. And especially if he's pitching against the Royals, I have him set to hit a career high in strikeouts when he pitches on Tuesday.
He's not even a strikeout guy, and I love that pick. Like, that tells you all you need to know about the Royals. It's been rough there for a while. I feel bad for the fans of Kansas City.
Yeah.
The last streamer, and before we get you all out of here today, Griffin Canning for the Angels at St. Louis on May 4th. 15 1/3 innings this year. That's 3 starts. 4.11 ERA, 4.28 FIP. The velo's up a tick from last year. And this is a guy who's been injured and kind of battling back from that. I love what I've seen in the tiniest sample size so far this year. The 3 outings were 5 innings, 5 innings, and 5 1/3 innings. If now is the time to kind of stretch him out, the pitch count has been increasing. If he can get to 6 innings, you are going to get a quality start here, I believe. In the 3 outings, he's given up 2 runs in one outing, 2 runs in another outing, and 3 runs in the third outing. So if he can get stretched out, man, I like it. He has a 40% whiff rate on the slider and over a 30% whiff rate on all of his other pitches.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff looks great. Ben, the Cardinals offense. What do you think? What do you think?
The Cardinals offense has been struggling. As someone who really invested in the Tyler O'Neill, Newbar's been okay, and O'Neill is a huge letdown so far. I really hope he turns it around. But I mean, if you watched the game last night, 1-0 against the Dodgers, the Cardinals just couldn't get the bats going, and it's really been ever since the opening weekend and the couple weeks after that. It's just been the bats have not been able to get going. The pitching hasn't clicked. They're just in a bad rut right now. And Canning's always been a guy that has had good stuff. It just doesn't, maybe the confidence isn't there. At the end of the day, his pitchability may not be there, but the trend we've been seeing, like you said, Clay, the last 3 starts have been pretty good. You got to win his last time out against Oakland. And he really is just right there. Like you said, he gets to 6 innings. That's a quality start. And all of his starts, if he just gets 1 more inning, that's a quality start. So against a struggling Cardinals lineup, with a guy with good stuff and who's right on the brink of cracking something open, I think it's a perfect streaming option, especially with someone who's only owned in 2.1% of rosters and fantasy leagues.
Awesome. Everybody remember to like, subscribe, comment, and tell Ben how awesome he's been doing on all the video editing. And Ben, before we get out of here, tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Ben Bilotti, just plain and simple how it is. But more importantly, make sure you go subscribe to all our YouTube channels. Main page, Just Baseball Fans, Just Fantasy Show, or they have their own pod, Show and Go, Call Up, YouTube channel for every show we got. So go subscribe to all of them. Follow Just Baseball on Twitter. And who cares about following me when you can follow the brand?
Hey, for those of you who don't know Show and Go, that's probably the most underrated podcast we have, in my opinion. Jack McMullen and Taylor Davis, former MLB player and minor league player, walk you through the life of being an actual player and what that's like. And they have great guests. I don't know why that's not like something I see shared on Twitter all the time. Such an interesting podcast. So check that out along with all of them. Ben, have a great day. Everybody else, we'll see you on Friday.